Hey guys, how's it going? So today I'm going to be showing you all of the things that I crocheted in 2024. So if you guys didn't know, I started learning how to crochet in July of 2024, and ever since I started crocheting, I knew that this was a video that I wanted to make. And so I'm finally doing it, and I'm super excited to share with you guys. So before we get into that, I just want to share the story of how I started crocheting because I feel like that's, how this journey got started. So I started crocheting in July of 2024. And initially, when I wanted to start learning how to crochet, I went to Hobbycraft and I picked up this kit on how to crochet. So I have the little instruction manual thing here with me. So this crochet kit teaches you how to crochet a monkey, a rhino, and a panda. And I'm just going to put it out there right this second, right this now. I didn't crochet any of these things. So basically the kit came with this instruction manual and then all of the yarn and the crochet hook that you needed to make these animals, right? So I get home, I open the kit, I look at this, and I start reading the instructions, and I'm like, what does any of this mean? I'm going to show this to you guys right now. Look at this. What does this mean? It's basically in another language. Like, are you joking me? Like, first of all, they do have a key here, which tells you all of the abbreviations and what they mean. But if you've never looked at anything related to crochet in your life, if you've never like dove into this world, this is gibberish. This means nothing. So I quickly realized this is not going to help me. I'm not going to be able to learn to crochet with this. This is definitely not a beginner kit. This is for people who actually already know how to crochet. So instead of following this, I took the yarn and the crochet hook from the kit and I just went to YouTube and I started looking on YouTube for tutorials on how to crochet, because if I spent any time trying to learn what any of this meant in here, I was not going to learn how to crochet. So yeah, that was my first mistake in learning to crochet. I will say, however, now that I've crocheted for about 6 or 7 months, I feel like, yes, I can finally sort of understand this. Now that I'm looking at it, it's not as terrifying, but still, if this was your first foray into crocheting, this would terrify you, and it terrified me. So yeah, scrap this, went to YouTube, and never looked back. So yeah, basically the reason why I wanted to share that story is because a lot of the things that I first started crocheting used the color wool that came in that kit. So a lot of things are brown and white and gray, and that's why. It's because that's the only yarn that I had. Since I decided to learn strictly through YouTube tutorials, I also decided to make a little playlist for you guys. So all of the things that I learned to crochet through a YouTube tutorial, I have put into a little playlist called Things That I've Crocheted. So if you guys want to make any of the things that I made in this video, then they should be in that playlist. And if they're not in the playlist, then I will try my best to link the patterns and things below. Let's just start. Let's get into it. So these are the things that I crocheted in 2024. So I'm going to try and go through everything in the order that I've crocheted it, because I did do a Twitter thread of everything I was crocheting. So trying to keep everything in the order that I did it in, and you guys can kind of see the progress of how we've progressed in the crocheting. So yeah, so the very first thing that I ever crocheted is this little heart. As you can see, it is a little bit messy. I'm not gonna lie, it is a bit frayed. I feel like the reason why this in particular looks like this is because the yarn that I was using, I crocheted and frogged a bunch of times. I think that's the term, frog, as in like unraveled it and crocheted again over and over, because I was using this yarn to learn how to do my chains and things like that. So I was just looking up basic crochet videos to get used to the motions of crocheting and things, because it wasn't easy and my hand was cramping when I started learning crocheting. So yeah, this wool has seen a lot of things, but then I finally was like, you know what, I'm just going to take a risk. I'm going to make something. So I made this little heart. And so that is the very first thing that I crocheted. So yeah. After that, I decided to do a second heart. This time, oh my god, you cannot even see. I'm gonna have to beauty guru this. Yeah, so this is a black one, and I feel like this one turned out better. It doesn't look much like a heart, if I'm honest, looking at it now, but I thought this one was better. It was neater, it was more concise, it's not as loose as the other one. So if I just like do a little comparison here. Oh my god, this is terrible. But yeah, one of them is neater than the other. So yeah, uh, my two crochet hearts. And then after that, we have these two little flowers, which are also a little bit deformed. Not going to lie, the petals are not the same size. But I decided to do one after another just to see if I can make them neater. So I think this one might have been first, and then this one second. But as you can see, yeah, still not amazing, but still not terrible. So we have those. And then also along with that, I did a little star. This actually looks very similar to the flowers. If I hold them up next to each other, looks kind of similar, but this is a star. Doesn't really look like a star. I feel like, again, yeah, just learning to crochet. So obviously these are like defined points. And then after that, this side, don't really know what happened to this side, but I just feel like it's not as defined. But yeah, so we did this. After that, we decided to get a little bit more advanced. We did a little coaster, and I feel like this turned out really well. And I have to say that I think the reason this turned out really well is because this yarn happens to be stiff. So like if I compare it to this yarn, so this yarn is like very flimsy, and so it was like hard to work with and quite thin. But then the yarn that I used for this is quite thick and it was stiff, so I feel like it was easier to crochet with. And I'm not really sure why there's a difference in the yarn. It's just whatever came in the little kit that I got from Hobbycraft. But yeah, so this turned out really well. I was really proud of this. And then after I did the coaster, I decided to move on to granny squares because they also seemed like an easy thing to do, and they came in lots of different patterns. So let's see, what was my first granny square? So this was my first ever granny square. I really wish that I'd chosen a better room to do this in because the background is grey and you can't really see. But yeah, so if I hold it down here against my hoodie, this is the first granny square that I ever made. As you can see, it is not very much of a square. It is so uneven. The pattern is so uneven. Look at this. Like, it's not good, but it was my first attempt at a granny square. I mean, it is a square shape. It's just the pattern is not very square. It's kind of circular and a kind of a mess, but it was my first granny square, and so I'm proud of that. The second granny square I did was this one. It is gray. Again, you can kind of see the pattern is not straight whatsoever. It's supposed to be more like diagonal, but I feel like you can see it's a little bit uneven. But this was just me, getting used to doing the double crochets and like getting used to like the motions and whatever. So this is, a practice. And then we decided to keep going with the granny squares, and I really tried hard to find different granny square patterns online on YouTube. I was trying to find really interesting ones, things that look different, so that I had a little bit of variety because I didn't just want to keep crocheting the same granny squares over and over. So then there's this one. This one is black. This one turned out quite nice, actually. I can't hold it up this way because you can't see it because of the gray background. But yeah, I really like this one. I think the pattern on this one actually turned out really nice. You can really see it and it's very clear in comparison to the last ones. So there was this granny square. And then after that, I decided to challenge myself to the two-tone granny square. So we have two-tone granny squares. We have this one, which is a little flower pattern. And again, this turned out pretty well. I feel like I was pretty proud of this one. And then we also did this one, which is gray and white, which again, I think did really well because the white yarn is quite stiff. So it was a lot easier to work with. So I feel like this also turned out quite cute. Also, love the fact that none of my granny squares are the same size. So yeah, if I was planning to make something out of them, I can't because they're all different sizes. Last but not least, in terms of granny squares, this one is grey and quite large, so I don't know how well you're going to see it against the background here. I really should have planned out this video better. There's this granny square, which is this Victorian pattern, and all I remember about this one is this was such a pain to do. I had to unravel it and redo it a bunch of times. It was so hard to do this pattern, and I don't know why. I think it's because I was crocheting in the evening and it was dark, and I couldn't really see my wool that well, so it was really hard, and I just kept missing the pattern. I just kept losing focus and missing parts of the pattern, and it wasn't until you got like halfway through a row that you realized that you actually screwed up the pattern. So this took so long, but I'm so proud that I did it. And I think I would like to try it again, maybe with a different color of wool. It is a really nice pattern. It was really fun. It was difficult, but it was fun. And I think yeah, I definitely think if I did it again, I could do a better job. So that is it for all of my granny squares. Also, after all of those, I finally got more yarn. So I was trying to use up the yarn that I got in that Hobbycraft kit before I decided to buy more yarn. And also, I didn't think it made sense to buy any yarn if I was going to not stick with crocheting. So after I did all of that crochet, I bought new yarn and I was able to make new things in fun colors. So the first thing that I crocheted after that was this little bear coaster in this blue yarn. I think it's really fun. Now, I will say this is really small. I think the yarn that the person was using in the video was larger, so they ended up with like a larger coaster, but mine is quite small and quite cute. It's also a little bit turned in on itself. It's not quite flat, it's kind of in on itself, and I think it's because I was using or like holding the yarn too tight, so it's quite a tight shape rather than like a looser one. So that's kind of why it caves in on itself, but I thought that was cute. On the same day, I also crocheted this heart. So this is a better heart, a bigger heart than if we go back to this one. So this is the first heart that I ever crocheted, and then this was the third, I'm gonna say. And yeah, so I looked up a pattern on YouTube where it really looked more like a heart shape, because I feel like these ones don't look as much of a heart. So I decided to get this one bigger in like a lavender color. I think this turned out really cute again. We love that. And then also on that day, I do remember this day because I like came home with my yarn and immediately started crocheting things. So the other thing that I crocheted is this star. And again, if I pull up the other star that I did, if I can find it, oh my goodness. Yeah, so this is like the first star that I made. And then I made this one, which is larger, and I really like this one. The only thing I will say about this one is where I did my little like threading in of the yarn, you know, when you finish it off and you like weave the thread in, you can really see it. I don't know, you guys might not be able to see it as well, but there's like a big raised bit here where I put the needle in to like thread in my extra yarn. So not great, but still pretty cute. Really proud of how my crafts turned out that day. So there was that. And then after that, so that was like all of the like flat things that I decided to crochet, things that like didn't really have any shape, things that didn't really take a lot of time to make. So I did those, and then I decided I was ready to take on a bigger crochet project. So my next crochet project was this. So this is an Animal Crossing inspired bell bag, and I remember that this took days. It took days because I kept messing up the rows. So it was like one of the rows you had to do like 22 stitches or something, and every time I did the row I ended up with a different number of stitches every time. And I don't know why, but I just did. All I remember is like having to redo the same row a million times because I kept doing it wrong. But we finally came up with this cute pouch. If I can show you guys, it looks like this. The star is separate. I had to sew that on. I was not ready to be sewing anything on, but I think it did a pretty good job. If I can kind of get it to sit nicely. Yeah, looks like this. I do wish this part kind of set up a little bit more, just so that you can see the little red yarn, which I've like tied in the back. But I think it's just how I've crocheted it. Again, I think the tension was like very tight at the top, so that's why it kind of caves in on itself. But this is really cute. I was really proud of this. I thought it was really fun. And so yeah, that was like my big crochet project. And like I said, it took days because I kept messing up this like one row or something. But yeah, so we did this. Then after that, I remember I wanted to do something kind of easy for a crochet project. So I did some flowers, and I did these on the same night. So first of all, we have this little flower. So I actually have two of these, and the second one I ended up using on a different crochet project, so you'll see that soon. But this is the first flower. These ones are really cute and fun, and I remember the YouTube tutorial for this. I thought it was really easy and simple, and so yeah, I'll probably make more of these just because they were like really fun and easy to do. So we have this. And then the other flowers that I made are these little roses because I thought that I had this red wool and I really wanted to use it. So I was like, let's make some roses. And then they have like little leaves attached to them as well. I thought they turned out really cute. So we have those. And then moving on to something quite random and my first ever like stuffed crochet thing. I crocheted a little penis. Because my fiance really wanted one and I found a crochet pattern for it. So I made this guy and I actually made quite a few of these, which I don't have to show you guys because I've given them away. But yeah, so I made at least 3 of these guys. So this was like my first attempt at amigurumi. I think that's how you say it. I just looked up a YouTube video on how to say it. But like the little like stuffed like anime kind of things. And yeah, I think he turned out really well. I mean, I guess his smile could be a bit more of a smile, but yeah, so that was my first little foray into that. And again, I used the eyes from my Hobbycraft kit as well as the stuffing because I hadn't used that up to this point. So yeah, and yes, if you're wondering, there is a YouTube tutorial on how to make these. So yes, absolutely, it's in the playlist below. So check it out. After that, the next thing that I decided to crochet were these little pumpkins. So I have them in 2 sizes, and these are really easy and fun to make. Basically, the way that I made them smaller is that I just did less stitches per row. But I thought these turned out really cute, really fun. This one is a little bit wonky, and that is because I know that when I started and when I ended, I did not have the same amount of stitches per row. I think I messed up somewhere in there. That's why this one's a little bit wonky, and I know that. But this one is better because all of the stitches in the rows were the same. But yeah, I thought these were quite fun. I did like a little stem on them, and again, the stuffing came from my Hobbycraft stuffing kit because I did not have any of that, but I did buy this wool as well. So yeah, little pumpkins. And then the next thing that I crocheted is definitely something that is what I would consider the biggest fail of my crochet attempts, and it is this duck. And as you can see, he looks pretty deformed and is not amazing. And the reason that the duck looks like this is because the YouTube video that I was using and the wool they were using is not the same as the wool that I was using. And also the eyes are too small for it, and the wool that I used for the feet and the beak are also too thin for the type of wool that I had. And this is when I learned that it's very important to check out the thickness of your yarn and such. So yeah, overall, I feel like the shape of this guy is not that bad. I really think that it's fine. I think it's just if the eyes were a better size, and also if the yarn for the beak and the feet were thicker, it probably would have turned out better. But yeah, this did not turn out how I expected it to. Let me put a photo up actually. This is a photo of the duck that was supposed to be, and then this is what mine turned out to be. Not amazing, but you know, it is what it is. We learn, we move. I do remember it was actually quite hard to crochet with this yarn just because it was so thick, but I think this is, you know, part of the learning experience. Not everything that you're going to make is going to be amazing. So yeah, that is this guy. And then after that, I decided to crochet a ghost, this little ghosty. I will say I'm really proud of this ghost and how it turned out. It is so cute. So I remember looking for this pattern because I saw the picture of this on Pinterest. So let me tell you guys a story about Pinterest crochet patterns. They can be very misleading. So I hearted this on Pinterest and I clicked on the link to get the pattern for this ghost. When I clicked on the link for this ghost, I got a pattern for a completely different ghost crochet, and I had to go on a little hunt to find the actual owner of the pattern for this ghosty. And so yeah, that's just a little piece of advice. If you're looking on Pinterest for crochet things, you better be careful because the photos that are pinned to the website aren't always the pattern that you're going to get. So yeah, I had to like go searching for this actual ghost pattern. But when I did find it, I was really happy about it. And this is actually the only crochet pattern that I paid money for. So all of the other crochet patterns that I find were free on YouTube or somewhere else online. This one I paid for, but I don't regret it because he turned out super cute. And I used smaller wool this time, so you know he's like proportioned. And I love his little hat. His little hat is actually separate, so I will say his head is a little bit deformed at the top. I don't love it, and the sewing at the bottom is not the best. But aside from that, you know, with his hat and everything, he looks really cute. I actually think in the pattern that I got, he's supposed to have arms. So I didn't add arms to my guy, but I still think he looks really cute. And if you couldn't tell, this was around Halloween when I was crocheting because I wanted to do seasonal crochet crafts. So yeah, this is my little ghosty. And then the next thing that I crocheted is something I actually don't have, but I do have photos of, and it is a little baby hat. So I crocheted this for my niece because I was going to her christening, and I decided that I wanted to challenge myself and make something that was actually something someone would use. And I remember that crocheting this is actually quite difficult just because I did not have anything for size reference. This was something that I was scrambling online trying to find a guide for, like how to size a baby hat. And I think it turned out really well. I used my little ghost plushie as like a measurer to see like the width and everything. And when I gave the present to my niece, it did actually fit her. So that was really good. But yeah, it was definitely challenging to figure out the sizing on that. And also, it was the first time that I was making something that was like for someone to use. So something in my crochet journey that I have been really conscious about and something that I've been really kind of afraid of is that when I finish something off, it's going to unravel. So I definitely was like just sewing and sewing in knots, trying to make sure that this thing was not going to come unraveled because I was like, someone's actually going to use this. I don't want it to fall apart. So yeah, that was my main concern when I was making that. But I think it turned out really well. And do I know if my sister actually uses it on my niece? I have no idea. But I still think it was really cool that it was like the first kind of crochet present that I made, and it turned out really well. So yeah. Then the next thing, so I don't actually know when I crocheted this, but I also consider this to be like a little bit of a failure in my crochet journey, and that is this little like leaf thing. So it's supposed to be like a little band that you attach to your headphones and stuff. The reason why I consider this a failure is that the leaves are very flimsy. On mine, I don't enjoy how flimsy they are. I feel like they don't really stand up on their own. And so yeah, that's why I consider this a failure. It's not bad. I mean, it's fine, but I don't actually use it on anything. And it was just something like quick and easy to crochet one night, so I decided to take a chance on it. But it didn't really turn out well for me. I think if I had stiffer wool or something, it probably would have turned out better. I don't actually know when I crocheted this, but I do consider it not a total failure, but just like a little bit, just because the leaves on it are quite flimsy. So yeah. Then moving on, we have another quite large crochet project, and it was this Kindle cover. So as you can see, this is one of the flowers that I crocheted quite a while ago. I had this sitting, so I decided to add it to the Kindle cover because you know I'd already crocheted it, and it was like one of the suggested things to do for the Kindle cover. So yeah, this is the cover, and my Kindle is actually inside this right now. That's why it's like quite heavy at the minute, but it does fit my Kindle, which is good. And I use like quite thick yarn, so I think it turned out a little bit chunkier than the actual YouTube tutorial pattern. I think they were using thinner yarn. But yeah, this is cute. What I remember about crocheting this is that I had to start this a few times just because I find the initial like bottom bit. So you start at the bottom and then you crochet around. But this little bottom bit to start it took me ages. And I think it's because, so the way that it was like you did a chain and then you crocheted in one side of the chain and then the other. It was just very fiddly. So it took quite a while to actually get in and make sure that I was doing the beginning part properly. I think it's because I started with a written pattern and then I looked at the video tutorial, but even the video tutorial made this bit a little bit confusing for me. So it took a while to get there, but once we got past this initial bit, the rest of it was quite easy and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, this is my little Kindle cover. And I do actually use it when I remember to. So yeah, this is like a good practical thing that I crocheted. I will say this bit, the bit with a flower, so this is just like, this isn't attached or anything, it's not like a button, it just kind of sits there. So I will say I am worried that this part is just going to come off someday just because, but it stayed so far. And one thing I will also say is when I was sewing the flower onto this, the flower is like very tightened and it kind of got a little bit misshapen just because of the way that I was sewing it on. I will say I'm not really good at the sewing parts of the crochet, so that's kind of why it's kind of like this. But yeah, that is my little Kindle cover. And then to go along with that, I do actually have a half finished Kindle cover in this wool. So this is the wool that I made the baby hat out of. And I thought that I had enough wool left to make another Kindle cover, but as you can see, I've gotten halfway. And I keep telling myself I'm going to buy more yarn to finish this, but I've just not done it. So yeah, if we hold these up in comparison, you can see I'm just a couple of rows away from the top. I'm very close to finishing it, but the real question is, will I ever finish it? Who knows? If I don't finish it, I don't really know what I'm going to do with this. It'll probably just sit around until I actually get around to buying wool to finish it. But yeah, so we have those two things. And then another thing that I have, which is really random, but also, again, I was really bored and I just wanted to crochet something, is that I made a little turban for my ghost plushie. So you guys saw in the photos, he modeled the baby hat very well. So I decided he should have his own little hat. I just crocheted this hat. Again, I just kind of looked online for like a size guide. It was a very like generic newborn kind of pattern that I used for this, literally like a turban for a newborn baby. That's what the pattern for this was. But I made it for my ghostie because I didn't really know what else to be at. And yeah, so this is what he looks like without it. He looks bald. So I made him this little hat. So yeah, that is another random little thing that I crocheted. I actually find it quite easy to make this. This was like one of those like easy patterns that once you get the hang of it, you just kind of keep going and going. So yeah, I think it turned out pretty well. And so yeah, there is that. We're actually coming close to the end of this video. I don't know if you guys would be happy or sad to know, but I think we're getting through things quite well. So I remember after doing the hat for my ghost plushie, I didn't really crochet for quite a while. I don't really know why that is. I guess I just kind of was like busy or didn't really find anything that I wanted to crochet. But then in November, start of December, I kind of picked up crocheting again. And the next thing that I made after a long break is this snowflake. And I actually really love how this turned out. It turned out so well. I think because of the pattern, the wool stays like quite stiff and it's like quite shapely. So yeah, I really love how this turned out. It's really fun. I guess I would put this in the category of like advanced coaster slash granny square because again, it's like a flat design, but it was like really cool and interesting. And yeah, I'm really happy with the way it turned out. So we did a snowflake. And then one of the last things that I crocheted for the year and is also not finished is this stocking. So this stocking, first of all, I remember looking for a crochet pattern for a stocking and I was trying to find one where it didn't look so square in the heel, but I wasn't able to find one. So I've been following this crochet pattern and this took so long because the actual beginning part is fine. This was just like, you know, a regular crochet pattern. This is fine. It was actually getting into like the ribbed part of the pattern. This took me ages because I kept messing up the pattern. And I know that it's probably to do with me crocheting and watching TV at the same time, but like I messed this up a bunch and it took so long to get the hang of the pattern. And then I finally did, and I will say I did make a mistake in this. So the way that you crochet this is you crochet the foot part first, you do the heel, and then you fasten it off, and then you start crocheting in the heel. And so when I started doing the crochet again, so after I like finished it off, and then I started on this part of the stocking, I was doing this part, and I have two little stitches. I'm supposed to have like 40 something stitches along this line, right? But I definitely did not. I think I had like 32 or something. So whenever I started doing the pattern up here, I had to put in extra stitches because I wanted to make sure the pattern stayed correct. And that took a little bit of fiddling, but I did it. So I've been doing this, and then as you can see, I'm not finished because I ran out of yarn. And I was going to buy yarn to finish it, and I did buy yarn to finish it, and then I realized that the yarn that I got to finish it is actually the wrong shade of red. And it really just destroyed me inside. I was like, I can't use a different shade of red to finish this because it's going to be really obvious. So yeah, this is my stocking. It looks kind of small here, and I want to say it is kind of small, but in terms of crochet projects, this is the largest crochet project that I've done, and it is actually a little bit like 2 rows or something shorter than the video pattern, because I knew I was running out of yarn, and I thought that I had enough yarn to finish the top little bit here, but I clearly did not, because as you can see, I got about a quarter of the way around and realized I'm running out of yarn. So yeah, another project that I will need to wait to finish. Even got my little stitch marker here. But I think when it's done, I'm going to be really impressed. If only just because this is the largest crochet project that I've done to date. And if I finish it, that would be really great. Hopefully it doesn't take me a whole year to finish it, but like I said, I need to get wool because I got the wrong color wool initially. And finally, the very last thing that I crocheted in 2024, which again isn't even finished, but is 99% of the way there, is this little Pikachu plushie. So yeah, he's not finished because I have to do his cheeks. I have red wool that I need to do to finish that off. But this is my little Pikachu. He's not perfect. Again, I will say he's not perfect. I do not really enjoy his arms or his legs. Again, with the Pinterest, I got pulled into like a Pinterest image of what I thought the pattern was going to be, and then it wasn't the right pattern, but I decided to crochet him anyway. So yeah, this is my little Pikachu, and I did his tail myself. So the pattern that I used for this Pikachu didn't have a nice tail design that I wanted. So I tried to look on Pinterest for like a pattern for a Pikachu tail that I liked, but they didn't really have one. So this is kind of like the first time I ever kind of did my own pattern. It's not super advanced or anything like that. It's nothing crazy, but I did kind of like pattern it myself, and I did the color change and everything myself. So I am quite proud of how that turned out. And yeah, like I said, he just needs to have the cheeks and then he'll be like a full-blown Pikachu. But yeah, so that is the last thing that I crocheted in 2024, guys. And that kind of brings us to the end of this video. That is everything that I crocheted in 2024. Honestly, I'm pretty proud of myself for doing this. I'm pretty proud of myself for like learning this on my own and just kind of going with it and seeing where it went. I'm really proud of all the progress that I've made. We've had some hits and misses, but that's just how it is when you're learning something new. So far in 2025, I haven't actually crocheted anything. I think part of me was holding off because I wanted to do this video first, and I just wanted to like finally get through everything, and now I have to find a place to store all of the things I've crocheted, because so far all they've been doing is sitting on the sofa in my living room. But now that I've shown them all to you guys, I can finally figure out what to do with them or put them somewhere. That's something that they don't tell you about when you're learning to crochet, is that once you've crocheted something, you need to find a place for it, because if you don't, it just kind of sits around and there's nothing really that you can do about it. What I'm going to crochet this year, I have no idea. Initially, when I started crocheting, part of me was like, oh, now I've started crocheting, I can maybe like crochet things to sell on Etsy, but I'm still don't really think I'm there yet. I don't think I'm ready to crochet for things to sell, just because like I said, I'm worried about things unraveling, and also worried about like if I do it like made to order, then I have to like push myself to get things crocheted in time if someone orders it, or if I just do it where it's like once I have a bunch of stuff made, then I'll list it. I don't really know how I would do it. But then I also just kind of want to enjoy my hobby. I just want to kind of enjoy learning and like doing things. So yeah, we'll see where crocheting in 2025 takes us. Depending on how much I crochet, there may or may not be another one of these videos next year. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I guess that's everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this little video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. If you guys crochet, let me know in the comments below what you've been crocheting. And like I said, everything that I crocheted in this video should be linked in the description below. Like I said, most of them I learned through YouTube tutorials. Other things I got links for online. And so yeah, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.